Hey guys, this is Justin at the Survivor Review, and with the start of a new year means it's time to talk about the best movies of last year. Today we'll be talking about my top 10 favorite movies of 2016. Now of course this is all the movies that I was able to see by the end of the year. There were some that I wasn't able to see, including one big one that I really wanted to, which was Martin Scorsese's Silence. Since Scorsese is my favorite director working today, so I was really excited for this one. But it only got released in limited theaters in 2016, and it's not getting a wider release till like the middle of January. So I wasn't able to see it last year and to see if it would make my list or not. I had to just kind of like skip that one entirely. So, as usual, I'm going to start off with some honorable mentions. Though this is a little bit different. My honorable mentions normally are movies that I like and there are aspects of them that I thought were great and noteworthy. This is a little bit different. These are movies that I wanted to put on my list, but just didn't have enough room because I wanted to do just a top 10, not a top like 12 or 13. So these are the ones that couldn't make it to my list, but I really wanted to put them on there. Starting with Star Trek Beyond. Now I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and I actually really like the J.J. Abrams movies. I know a lot of people don't, it's very split among Star Trek fans, but I really love them. I think they're a ton of fun, especially that first one, and this one almost tops it. I'm still not quite sure if it is. I have to see how it goes on more rewatches. But this movie was just a blast from start to finish. Sure, the storyline wasn't the most original, and sure, the villain wasn't that great. Very well acted by Idris Elba, but not the best villain out there. But what works in this movie is just the cast. Their chemistry together is incredible. They work so well together, and the plot of this one felt the closest in line with the original series than the first two Star Trek films. There's even a great tribute to Leonard Nimoy, the way he factors into the plot of this movie, which is really well done. I love how that was handled. It was just a blast. It was easily my favorite movie of the summer. And my next honorable mention is the horror film The Witch. Now this movie was getting praised left and right. People were saying how amazing it is. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't think it was nearly as amazing as everybody says it was. But that being said, this is still a damn good horror movie. Very original, very just creepy and unsettling. It has a great vibe to it, just kind of unsettling feel to it. The acting is amazing, especially by the kids. A lot of the characters in this movie are kids, and they're great, especially the main actress and her younger brother, who has this insane scene that was just incredibly acted. I couldn't believe it was a kid acting in that scene. And just a lot of great build-up. Not a whole lot happens in the movie. It's more of just like subtly just building up to stuff, and it was very well done. So now, on to my actual top 10 list. Starting off with number 10, this is the 31st movie to feature this character in a franchise that spanned over 60 years. And this turned out to be one of the most unique films in the entire series. I'm talking about Shin Godzilla. I was so pumped for this movie. I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and this was the first Japanese Godzilla film in over 10 years. And it did not disappoint. This is such a different and interesting take on the Godzilla character, being what it does with the human characters and what it does with Godzilla himself. This is not just your typical Godzilla shows up in Tokyo, throws a rampage, and that's it. There's even more to his mythology, more to how the character evolves, that was very unique and very different. And the human stuff was very cool too, because it was this realistic take on what would happen if Godzilla actually attacked Tokyo. Half the movie is just people in boardrooms discussing what to do, and it's all interesting because it plays in a very realistic, plays very political, has a lot of satire in it too, and actually had a lot of good use of social media that just made it really realistic, and I thought was very unique. Then you get to the character of Godzilla, which was amazing. The look of him is incredible. It's terrifying. It's so creepy looking. I love it. It's so cool. And this is the first film since the original 1954 classic to actually make Godzilla terrifying. Especially in that scene when he first uses his atomic breath and just destroys the city. It's so dramatic. It's so devastating in both the literal sense and emotionally. It's like, oh my god, this creature just destroyed this entire city. It's so well done, and I really liked it. That was a very unique take on the Godzilla character. This movie has this just foreboding sense of dread to it that, again, I haven't felt since the original Godzilla film. That like, every time Godzilla's about to appear, every time he does appear, you just get this like sense of dread of just like, this is something bad. This is a disaster. This is not just a monster. This is a disaster. Number 9. If James Wan is the modern master of the ghost movies, then Fede Alvarez is the modern master of just the gory, brutal horror thrillers. And that is pretty much cemented with his latest film, Don't Breathe. This was his follow-up to the surprisingly awesome Evil Dead remake, so he's one of the few directors to make a great remake of a movie I love, and his follow-up was even better. Don't Breathe is just a great thriller that has a lot of twists and turns, a lot of moments you don't see coming, a lot of just brutal moments that just make you cringe, and it's just very unique and very original and just awesome. The characters in this movie are all great because you're conflicted with them. You want them to succeed. You want Jane Levy to succeed and steal the money because you want her to get out of her crappy home and take her sister with her, but you don't want her to steal money from Stephen Lang, who's just this elderly blind guy. And you're like, well, that's just kind of rude. But then things get revealed as the movie goes on. There's a lot of twists and turns. The movie goes in a very crazy direction near the end of it. I did not see coming. And then you're like, oh, okay, now my perception of this character has changed, and my perception of that character has changed, and that was very unique. It wasn't just a typical just gore fest. It wasn't even that gory, to be honest. Very brutal, very bone crunching. I guess I'll say that. Stephen Lang as the blind guy is just an incredible horror villain. He's just scary. And despite the flash forward scene in the opening, which was kind of unnecessary, I didn't know where this movie was going. I didn't know where it was going to lead to. I didn't know where the characters were going. And this is the kind of movie where you think you would know. You think you'd be able to predict every twist and turn, but you can't. It was actually a very unique script. And that's one of the things that a good horror movie needs. It's just a unique script to keep you on the edge of your seat the whole time. And this movie did. Number 8. Now this is totally shifting tones, away from horror to something a lot more lighthearted. My number 8 pick is Disney's Zootopia. Now I saw a lot of animated movies this year, a lot more than I normally would, including Disney's Moana, which I did like a lot, but Zootopia is the one that stuck out to me the most and my favorite out of all of them. Just because I love the characters, I love the story, I love the themes and messages this movie had. It all just worked so well. And like, I went into this movie not expecting much. I thought it was just going to be like a cheap slap together kids movie about talking animals called Zootopia. Get it? And I was pleasantly surprised. This had like a noir, like mystery to it. That's the main storyline, which is very cool. I love the comedy in here. It wasn't just a bunch of animal puns. Very well written humor, a lot of really good jokes, great characters that I still remember now, and I even know the names of them. Like I know Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps because I've actually watched this movie more than a couple times since I got it on Blu-ray. So yeah, it's a really good film. The animation is great. I love the animation in here. A lot of great environments, a lot of great animals, a lot of great settings for the animals and stuff was very well done. And I love the message and theme of this movie, that this movie deals with racism, but it does it without having to say racism or mention white or black. It all does it with animals, which is so unique and just so refreshing and so different. And I applaud them for doing that. It was very well handled. Even though I'm not big on animated movies, this is definitely one I'm going to be watching again for years to come. Number 7. Talk about surprises. 10 Cloverfield Lane. Where did this movie come from? It literally came out of nowhere. They released a trailer for it 2 months before the movie came out. And then it came out and it was a great thriller. I love just the isolated feel to it, about the characters just stuck in this bunker, having it all be about them. There's only 3 people in the entire movie. Thought that was very good. I love the acting in this movie. Oh my god, John Goodman deserves an Oscar nomination, in my opinion. I thought his performance was amazing. He goes from being very sinister and just scary, which you've never really seen him be. He's always just this lovable, nice, big bear of a man, and in this movie he's just terrifying and scary. Then he also has those nice, quirky moments where he's a funny guy. It switches back and forth. It's done so well. I love the Hitchcockian feel of this film, just the build-up to just building up to them getting outside to find out what really happened. Was it really just a big attack, and is it really just toxic out there? Is there something else to it? I love that. I love the build-up to it. I love the characters. I just thought it was a very great thriller and just awesome. Despite the third act not being that great and having flaws, I really liked that first half, and I thought it was just an amazing thriller that kind of movie you don't really see too much nowadays. Number 6. A movie that's been in development hell for years. It was going to happen one moment, then it wasn't the next. Off and on, then finally did, and I'm so happy it did. Deadpool. This movie is just it's hilarious. I mean, what can be said about this movie that hasn't been said? Everybody loves this movie. This movie's awesome. It's such a great play at the superhero genre. It sticks so true to the source material and gets the character perfectly right, probably more true than any comic book movie has. Ryan Reynolds is just hilarious. I'm so glad he stuck through to get this movie made, because this is one of the most unique comic book movies. It is definitely a game changer. It showed us that you can do an R-rated comic book movie and people will still see it. It doesn't have to be PG-13, and that is just great. That's opening the doors for future films like Logan, which is coming out and will be rated R. All that aside, the movie's just a ton of fun. Deadpool is hilarious. The jokes are great. The action scenes are fun too. It's just a great mixture of a comic book movie and just a comedy that just works very well and is so unique. It's meta, it's silly, it's juvenile at times, but smart at times. There's a lot of juvenile humor in this movie, but then there's really smart meta jokes making fun of the fact that the studio can afford more X-Men to be at the mansion. Just a lot of great moments like that, a lot of memorable lines. Definitely a breath of fresh air, especially in a year where we got X-Men Apocalypse, which I did enjoy, but was kind of by the numbers and not very special. You have this movie that's very special and very unique and just awesome for comic book fans and just movie fans in general, because it was so much fun. Number 5. Speaking of Marvel movies, Captain America Civil War. This is one of the big ones of the year, one of the most anticipated films of the year for a lot of people, and it paid off. It definitely did not disappoint. It took a lot of aspects I was really nervous about going in, like would we really feel the conflict between Captain America and Iron Man, since in the previous movies they've gone at it and have not been happy with each other, but they still end up being friends at the end of every movie. So it's like, how is this one going to work with all of a sudden they don't like each other? That's going to feel very forced and very unbelievable, but it works. What really helps with this movie is the fact that we are so many movies into this universe that you really care about these characters. You've grown to love these characters, and all their motivations are clear. You have two superheroes going at it with different views. None of them is the bad guy. Everything is clear. Amazing action scenes. That airport action scene, I still say, is one of the best action scenes put to film, and so engaging, so much fun. It's a comic book fan's dream just to see all these superheroes going at it. Just, it's so insane, so awesome. Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man in this movie was great, and probably the best interpretation of Spider-Man that we've had. That just makes you even more excited for Spider-Man Homecoming coming out this summer. Thought that was good, even though the character was added in later, it didn't feel out of place. It worked with the story, and I liked the villain of the film, Zemo, who again, the movie didn't really need a villain. Like, we were just fine with Captain America and Iron Man going at it. But this villain is a very different type of villain. He's not a super-powered guy. He's just a regular guy whose life got ruined, so he wants to ruin the superheroes. He wants to tear them apart. It was just a regular guy, and I thought that was very different, very unexpected for, especially this far along into the series, where you think every villain has to get bigger and crazier. This one was more scaled back. Just a great addition to the universe that brings the story forward more and does a lot more with these characters that we've grown to love over all these years, and didn't feel overstuffed or just have too much going on. Just, it flowed perfectly. It was just an awesome film and just great. Number 4. This movie is part of a huge franchise that either way would make a crap ton of money, but this movie was still a gamble, and it paid off. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The first of the Star Wars spin-offs. I had a great time with this movie. I had some issues with the first act, being that it was a little clunky and some of the character development wasn't that great, but I still enjoyed these characters. I still liked seeing them go on their mission. I love that this movie was like a World War II movie in space. Like, this movie is really just people on a mission going to do something. It just felt like a classic World War II movie, like The Guns of Navarone or something like that. It was straight out of there. I like how the movie actually felt like a war movie. There's battle scenes in this movie that were gritty and brutal at times, and I know that that's what they were saying they were going to do from the first place when they announced this movie, but I never thought they'd follow through on it. Just because I just thought they'd be like, oh yeah, it'll be gritty and stuff, and they're just like, well, this is Star Wars, we have to make it happy for the mass audiences. No, they didn't. Even with the ending and the fate of some of these characters in the movie, I wasn't expecting to go as far as it did with that. And that was pretty just intense at times. And yeah, even though the first two acts had some flaws, the third act of this movie I feel is perfect. That final action scene with them on Jeddah was just friggin' amazing and incredible and just engaging the entire time. I am a sucker for space battles, and this has one of the best in the entire series, and I love that. And then of course you get to the ending with that Darth Vader scene, which is just, oh, it's mind-blowing. And then the way the ending ties perfectly right into A New Hope was amazing. And I remember just my heart pumping the entire ending, just like, oh my god, this is crazy. And when it cut to credits, I remember just sitting there being like, wow. Was this a movie that was necessary? No. Did we need to see how they got the Death Star plans? No. But it was intriguing and really cool, and I like how they filled in some gaps with some stuff and explained some things, which actually filled up some of the plot holes in A New Hope and just tied together so well. This is just a great companion piece to A New Hope and just an entertaining movie, and just shows us that these spin-off movies could be a good thing, because this one was a success. Number 3. One of the funniest movies of the year, and it's not even a full-on comedy. Shane Black's The Nice Guys. Shane Black is just a great writer. He's also a really good director, too. But this movie has so much great, witty, funny banter between the two characters, and the two characters are brilliantly played by Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. He is hilarious. He is amazing when it comes to comedy. And then Russell Crowe, who you wouldn't really expect to be big with comedy, is also great. Their chemistry together is amazing. It's just a really fun throwback detective story about these two people investigating the death of this porn star back in 70s Los Angeles. And it's great. It's so funny. Plays with a lot of like detective story tropes and does it very well. Again, the acting is great by Gosling and Crowe, but also great acting by Ryan Gosling's daughter in the movie. That actress, I don't know her name, but she is great for a kid actress. She was amazing in the film. And just an awesome, hilarious movie that I love detective movies. I love 70s throwback movies. I love movies that are made in the 70s or made now and takes place in the 70s. So that appealed to me right away. And they captured that era perfectly. Just a great original movie from Shane Black. Number 2. Now, I really had a hard time picking between my number 1 and 2 movies. These two movies are very interchangeable. I think both of them are amazing, and I couldn't really decide which one to go with what, but this is what I decided on. But my number 2 pick is Arrival. One of the most smartly written movies of the year, and just a great, unique, original film that has a premise that is something we've seen many times before, but does it in a totally new way and takes it in a totally different direction that is so interesting and unique and different. Now you go into this movie thinking, oh, it's just a typical alien invasion movie where just aliens come down to Earth, we have to talk to them, see if they're bad or not. No, there's a lot more to it with that. I love the way it's just a realistic take on what would happen if alien ships just arrived on Earth. It does a very good job of conveying like how you think like the governments would react or how the general public would react. That was very well done. You have amazing performances, especially by Amy Adams, who was great in the movie. She was phenomenal. And the way they talk to the aliens, the way they kind of learn the aliens' language and all that kind of stuff, and the way she describes how like delicate it is to teach them how to speak. It's not just a simple, just like ask them questions, was so engaging. Like, this movie is not an action film. There's like no action scenes at all in this movie. It's not what you expect. It's not aliens come down to Earth, blow up the cities. There's none of that in this movie at all. And that's a benefit of the film. It works so well. Then you get to a twist later on in the movie that I did not see coming at all. Was so interesting. I was just like, oh my god. And it ties back into the entire plot line of the film. And it was just so like unique. I know I've been saying that word a lot, but that's the best word I can think of. It's just so unique and something I haven't seen before. And visually, it was great too. Very well directed. I love the visuals in this movie. It looked amazing. It's an amazing looking film and just great. Just number 1. Like I said, I had a hard time choosing my number 1 and number 2. They're pretty interchangeable. But I had to go with this one for my number 1 just because it really stuck with me the most. And that is Mel Gibson's Hacksaw Ridge. Just, wow. Just, Mel Gibson needs to direct more movies. Now. Like, this movie was incredible. Now, why I picked it over Arrival, because honestly, I think Arrival is a better movie. I have less issues with Arrival than I do with Hacksaw. I have a couple little flaws here and there with Hacksaw. A lot less flaws with Arrival, though. But the reason why I chose Hacksaw over Arrival is that the next morning, after seeing Hacksaw, I woke up and the movie was still on my mind. It was the first thing I thought of when I woke up the next morning. And that has never really happened with a movie for me before, so I thought that means it has to be number 1. This is an incredible war film. very inspirational. I've never even heard of this story. This is a true story. I'd never heard of it before, but it's such an amazing story. So well done. Andrew Garfield in this movie is incredible. He deserves an Oscar nomination, to be honest. For the first half of the movie, it's a little cheesy with like the romance between him and his wife. But it's still well done. He's still really interesting with him going to boot camp. That was all really interesting. Really great drama. Then you get to the second half when they go into battle. And holy crap. Gibson knows how to direct a battle scene, because the first battle scene in this movie, my heart was racing the entire time. This was the most intense last half of a film I've ever seen. One of the most intense theater experiences I've had, because those war scenes are they're brutal. They don't hold back. They're very graphic and just in your face. Not as much as Saving Private Ryan is. Saving Private Ryan is more gritty and documentary style. This one's more cinematic, but it works that way. An amazing film. Those scenes just stuck with me, and just the story is great. The acting was great. And the whole last half when they were actually in the war, I honestly totally forgot I was watching Andrew Garfield in the movie. That's how good his performance was. So well directed, amazing battle sequences, great story. It was handled very well. Just amazing movie. I loved it. And that's my number one pick. Though again, that movie and Arrival were very interchangeable. Either or. Two great movies I feel you have to see. Whew. So that's my top 10 favorite movies of 2016. Pretty good year for movies. Very disappointing year for blockbusters. But those aside, it was a really strong year for dramas and a lot of stuff like that. I'm really looking forward to 2017. There's a lot of films I can't wait for. But yeah, that's my list. And that's about it for now. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.